sipping out the soda. My best friend say she noticed.
Pleasure to meet
Hello.
you. Yeah.
What made you want to pursue music?
What made me want to pursue music? Excellent question. Well, when I was a young teenager, or like preteen, I started playing the drums. My brother was a drummer when he was super young. My brother's younger than me. And my father bought him drums when he was like a kid, and he just gave them up. And we just always had these drums sitting in our basement. And then one day I decided to start hitting them, and it was a lot of fun. So I started taking drum lessons. And for a few years, I was like, I'm gonna be a drummer. Drumming is what I'm gonna do with my life. But then I didn't have the work ethic to, I guess, keep going when it got tough, and I kind of slowed down and gave it up when I was still a teen. And then music kind of like disappeared from me for a few years until I started rapping with a friend of mine. And we started making music together under this duo. And it was sort of like, I felt like my love for drums came back, but in the form of rapping, like rhythmic, you know, with your mouth rather than with the drumsticks. So that's what, I guess, got me started in pursuing music, and then it just evolved from there into what it is today.
Awesome. So I saw that you recently went on a road trip to LA and Vancouver.
did.
Did the trip have to do with your music?
Did it have to do with my music? It definitely did, because the destination of reaching LA was to write music.
Yeah.
But the idea of doing a road trip wasn't necessary for that. I could have taken a plane.
Yeah.
But I really liked the idea of going on this journey to get there. And I thought it'd be an inspiring trip, and it really was. And I wasn't sure how it would influence my music, but it definitely did. And just like the natural landscapes of some of the places I visited, plus some of the music that like I kind of just soundtracked my road trip with, like driving through Kansas and putting on a lot of country music and things like that, really influenced my writing trip in LA. So it definitely ended up being very much related to the music.
Did the places inspire new songs?
Yeah, so it's funny, the first day I got there, the first day I had a session, I was working with someone I'd never worked with before. And so I got thrown in this session, and I just maybe arrived in LA like 2 or 3 days before. And we ended up writing a song that was very kind of country influenced. It's just like kind of guitar and my voice, that's it. And I ended up calling the song Sand, and it was sort of definitely inspired by my drive through Utah, which is like super weird rock formations and all these like weird natural landscapes. And it's very like weird clay-like substances or sand-like substances that cover these rocks. And that influenced me writing this song, because I would pick up these rocks in like LA, and they would just like crumble in your hand. And then I ended up writing this song that had to do with, you know, using that imagery of rocks crumbling into sand, and sort of memories fading, you know, and like as the years go by type of thing. And yeah, the song ended up being called Sand, and I was like, wow, my trip really did influence this music, because that first song probably the most, and that's like an example of it. But it definitely made its way through a lot of the tunes that I ended up writing.
You also have some songs on SoundCloud, like Wet and Wait and Sensitive. Do you think you'll ever release them on a streaming platform?
It's a very good question. Some people have asked me to do that, and I've thought of doing that. Right now I'm like very into the new music that I'm making. Those songs were like personal songs, especially Wait was written a very long time ago. And I just kind of sat there on my computer, and then maybe in a moment of like catharsism or something, I decided to put them out there. But especially a song like a Sensitive feels more like a poem to me than a song. It definitely doesn't have the structure of a song. It's quite short, and it's more just like this. It's just this poem that I wrote, you know, and so it kind of just lives in this like light way on SoundCloud. I'm more focused, at least right now, on my next project, which is mainly based off this music that I've written in the last 4 to 5 months.
Your debut EP, Homemade, was just released in the summer. Do you think that the whole EP tells its own story?
Sorry?
Do you think that the whole EP tells its own story?
Yeah, I think like Homemade is the culmination of a lot of songs that never made it to the EP. But I worked on that EP for a while with the producers that I met in Montreal, and like sort of were the ones that took with them, I took music from being this like little hobby on the side of my life to like a real focus in my life. And it ended up encapsulating a lot of the stories about my childhood, about growing up, and that's why I decided to call the song Homemade, because it was very homemade. It was made with my friends, like in St. Henry, and we just like did it in like my friend's house, and it was a homemade project. But then also like it being about my home and my childhood, and that's why the picture on the EP is me as a child, because it's really me telling the story of like from 0 to now, or to then rather, and sort of the things that I went through in that time, and it felt like a very therapeutic experience in that way to like make that piece. And now I feel like I'm able to start talking about things that are happening, I guess, more live, like in real time.
Yeah, that's really cool. This might be a hard question, and I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But which song off of the EP is your favorite, and why?
I had a feeling that was going to be the question when you said it's difficult. It is a difficult question. I have like different relationships with all the songs.
Yeah.
I mean, like 3 of them are. Can I choose 3?
Yeah, sure. If you want to.
That's like half the project. I mean, the song Homemade is really special. I think it's like the most. It's like the meta song, because it actually talks about my relationship with making music. And then Crash and Visit You are the most important to me. The other songs are very much so too, but Crash is about, both Crash and Visit You are about more difficult things that have gone on in my life, and they were such therapeutic outlets for me to like make that song and put that feeling into that song, and they showed me more about what songwriting can be.
Yeah.
So I owe that to, I think, those 2 songs. Like, they were the first time where I was like, wow, you can really dive really deep and put a lot of yourself into music.
Cool. I feel like music helps everyone, which is a really good thing. What can we expect next from you musically?
Okay, excellent question. So, I mean, first to your point, like, the whole reason that music went from this little hobby to being like the whole thing is because of how therapeutic of an experience it is for me, and that's why it's so amazing to like put this music out and let it be this therapeutic instrument for other people. And whether it's because something similar is happening in their life or something completely different, like you can use it for whatever you need. So the fact that we get to share, like, I don't just feel like I'm making these songs and they're therapeutic for you. It's like they're really therapeutic for the both sides of it. So that's what's so amazing about it. So that's what I'm really excited for, also with the new music I'm making. The new songs, musically, the sound has definitely evolved.
Yeah.
It's definitely gone away from some of the flavors that you find in Homemade. And like some people that I've showed the music to are like, oh, this sounds like a different project, like altogether, because it's really sort of this new sound. If you were to look at Homemade and be like, okay, Homemade is Matthew at a time when he's probably really inspired by like Drake a lot. Now, the music I'm making now is Matthew while he's really inspired by Bon Iver.
Yeah.
So Bon Iver is like my biggest influence right now, and he really was the soundtrack of my drive to LA. Every night, because I'm driving west.
Yeah.
When we're driving west, the sun is setting in front of you every night, which was kind of nice. I watched 8 sunsets fall on my drive to LA. And whenever the sun started to set, I put on Bon Iver's latest album, 22 Million, and I would play the whole thing. And it's amazing sunset music. If you ever need a soundtrack for a sunset, I very much recommend it. And that really leaked its way into the songs I'm making. So there definitely is like more folky, country-ish vibes that have found their way into a still very much like pop, alternative pop sound, and maybe a little bit further away from the urban stuff that definitely made its way into Homemade.
Speaking of Bon Iver, who are your musical influences?
So yeah, Bon Iver is definitely at the top of that list right now. I really definitely got into like more folk music on my drive. There's this one group, they're pretty small-ish, that I found called the Ruin Brothers, R-U-E-N, and it's like very country folk. It sounds like it's made in the middle of America, but it's actually 2 brothers from the UK, and they were produced by a very prominent producer named Rick Rubin, and that's how I found them. I was looking at Rick Rubin's credits, and I found this was his latest project, and it was, I think, more of a passion project because he usually works with like Red Hot Chili Peppers and like some of the biggest artists in the world, and it's a really, really amazing project that I really pulled from. Who else? And now I'm really listening to the new 1975 album,
Yeah.
which I fell in love with. I wasn't really listening to them so much, and then someone who I'm writing a lot with in LA told me to check out the song. You know the song on that? You listen to the new album?
Yeah.
You know the song Petrichor / How to Draw?
Mm-hmm.
It's like this long, just like soundscape of like all these different things. I thought it was incredible. It's amazing music. So yeah, they're definitely a new influence for me.
Yeah. And do you have any last messages? Where to find you on Instagram? All
Yeah,
that?
well, everything's under my name, Matthew Chaim, spelled Chaim. I always say, like, because people don't necessarily understand that name, so I always say it's like a chain, but with an M. That's how I explain my name. Yeah, thank you so much for having me as your first interview. I'm very honored to be a part of it. And you definitely are a very enthusiastic music listener, so
Thank you.
thank you.